Bella? I don't have Bella here.
Here we are. Welcome to Delaware.
We're moving outside today.
We're in our backyard. Our neighbor Chloe. Give a little can of our celery.
Bella! Hopefully he'll finish up the yard here soon too.
Anderson is watching.
Hi, Kim. Good to see you. Linda. Steve Ulrich. Thank you for joining us, Tracy. Good to see you all tuning in. We just thought it's the first day that's been warm enough to come outside, so we thought we'd give it a try. There was a tiny bit of rain here half an hour ago, but we're keeping our fingers crossed, and hopefully we can get the mowing finished. And no rain for a while. And I did want you to at least see the dog. They don't come out on this side of the house. The invisible fence is on the big front yard, but you want to come out and at least say hello, buddy? I don't see your sister.
We're going to get the doggies here.
Yeah. Bella, come on. Want to come out for just a minute? Here she is. Okay. All right. Sit down here for a second. Treats. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Bella, do you want some treats? Can you see Bella over here?
I see the head.
All right. I know you don't usually come out here. This is a special occasion. All right, Bella, don't go wandering off. She likes the chipmunks rather a lot, so we have to be careful. Okay. You want a little bit more? Huh? Okay.
Can you all hear Joanne? Okay.
All right. Is that good? Okay, you two. All right, well, good morning from Buddy and Bella, and all of us on Indian Run. They're really sniffing around here. Bella, right in the house here. Oops, get in there. Go ahead, come on. Oh, I'm sorry, Bella. I urged her in. Come here, buddy. Uh-oh, this isn't working out really well. Right inside, buddy. Go ahead, here. You can do it. Good job. All right. I'll put a few more down there. Thank you, Buddy and Bella. And we're just closing that in case it gets a little noisy. And with a little bit of a risk we're taking coming outside. You can't control all the sounds in the neighborhood and the weather and all that. But we'll carry on. So good morning, Unity Church of Delaware folks. Thanks for joining us this morning. All our friends everywhere. We've got some friends joining in from out of state too, from all over the place. One of the blessings of doing these services by Facebook Live. So thanks for tuning in for this half hour of message, music, and prayer. As always, I'd like to share a couple little funnies. I think these were sent to me by Barbara Martin. Thank you, Barbara. Kind of quarantine humor, a few more of those, little observations. One person observed, it turns out my top 3 hobbies are eating at restaurants, going to non-essential businesses, and touching my face. Who knew? Another observation, I like this one. Of all the things I learned in grade school, how to avoid cooties was the last one I expected to use. Has kind of come back, that belief. Let's see, observation. The class of 2020 really outdid themselves this year with senior skip day. Oh boy, yeah. And this is one of, I think, in our area anyway, beauty salons have just opened back up a little bit, but during that long period with beauty salons closed, selfies went down 70%. I like that one. And finally, breaking news. Wearing a mask inside your home is now highly recommended. Not so much to prevent the coronavirus, but to stop eating. I thought those were pretty good. Thank you, Barbara. Well, let's, as always, we would like to start with a prayer and a prayerful song. Have Joe come over here, and hope you can hear us okay. Hope we can have a little bit of prayerful silence, even with mowing and
Hello, everybody.
And blue jay sounds and things like that. You might see some birds at the feeder behind us. I don't know how good that view is, but I thought we'd start with a prayer in the stillness, the Karen Drucker song. You know, sometimes we forget in times of stress we really need to let ourselves have peace in this moment. In this moment, right here, right now, we can claim peace. Even amid the mowing and the worries that come and go, we can decide right here, right now, to be still. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment there is peace. Sing it with me. In the stillness of this moment there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace, always peace. There is peace. Let's just close our eyes for a moment and feel that peace within us as we breathe in and out, as we feel that life flowing through us, that healing energy, that indwelling, abiding love that is with us always. We allow ourselves to become centered in that, grounded in that deep place of peace in us. We see all our loved ones, all our neighbors, our community in touch with that same deep peace, being steadied and strengthened by it. Whatever our circumstances, whatever the challenges before us, the peace of God is our rock. We are steady and strong. How grateful we are for the life of God that is with us always, one and all. And so it is. Amen. All right. I think we've got some birds chiming in with us a little bit. Let's see where we are here. We are going to do a little song by Carl Anthony. I know many of you, like us, are Carl Anthony fans. He's from San Diego. He's been to visit here 2-3 times at least. He did a winter solstice thing a couple of times.
His laser light show.
Yes, and a house concert a time or two, as well as visiting Unity of Delaware. So this is a song he tells the story of, and it's a beautiful one. He wrote it in connection with his ministry he does with a children's hospital out there, his arts department there. It's called Hold the Sky. I'm sure you know the song, many of you.
When the ground is shaking under me, hold the sky, hold the sky. When the ground is shaking under me, hold the sky, hold the sky. When the kingdoms crumble into dust, say goodbye. Say goodbye when the kingdoms crumble into dust. Say goodbye, say goodbye. Sometimes life can bring you down to your knees. If you go through hell, fine, just don't stop for tea. When the ground is shaking under me, hold the sky, hold the sky. When the ground is shaking under me, hold the sky, hold the sky. Sometimes life can bring you down to your knees. If you go through hell, fine, just don't invite me. When the ground is shaking under me, hold the sky, hold the sky. When the ground is shaking under me, hold the sky, hold the sky, hold the sky, hold the sky.
Nice, Joe. Thank you. We had some birds adding some vocalization on that too.
The crows are here, or the blue jays.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. We'll do another song here in just a few minutes, but wanted to share some ideas with you this morning about this experience of groundlessness. That Carl Anthony song, "Hold the Sky," he tells the story of it when he guest speaks. He wrote it for a little boy, or a little boy helped him write it, I guess, at this children's hospital. I was a little boy in cancer treatment there, and Carl goes around and writes songs with some of the kids and visits the kids and plays guitar for them. And one of the children was talking about what it felt like to have chemo. It was like an 8-year-old boy. And he said it was like the ground is shaking, kind of on the inside, like the ground is shaking. And Carl said, "What do you do when the ground is shaking?" And he said, "Hold the sky." And so that kind of turned into a song. I don't know what that little boy meant by "hold the sky." We could think about that in different ways, but it's like find your grounding in another way, when we're in those groundless times. And it seems to me that's kind of a regular part of life that comes and goes, these times of groundlessness. And we're a little bit in that kind of a phase right now, I think, in our experience of this pandemic and the social distancing and all. We're feeling a little groundless, I think, a lot of us. I found myself thinking a lot this past week, and I don't know why, but about amusement park rides. And they're all sort of interesting, strange simulations of the kind of the scary bits of human experience, aren't they? It's like if you feel like maybe you're just kind of going around in circles, it might be kind of like a merry-go-round, or if you kind of topsy-turvy and going around, it might be the Ferris wheel. Or I remember one called the Wild Mouse. You kind of go to sharp edges and then turn like you were about to fall off cliffs and then turn. And then, of course, ones that dive down into water. I was thinking, well, if we had to describe one that captured our experience now, it would be the rotor. Do any of you remember the rotor? I remember it. Maybe it was from Cedar Point, probably, because we went there sometimes when I was a kid. But the rotor was the one that you're inside, it's cylindrical, like a round room, and your back is against the wall, and it spins, and when they get enough kind of centrifugal force going that it'll hold you against the wall, the floor drops out from beneath you, and you are just hanging against the wall with nothing under your feet. And you're looking at each other as you spin, and you see people across the way, and some of them are, losing their grip a little bit, and they're sliding down a little bit, and some people are getting a little sick. And that goes on for a while until all of a sudden the floor is back under you and your feet are on the ground again. It's a kind of a ride that's about that scary experience of being groundless, of not having your feet under you. And in a way, that's kind of what we're experiencing now. I've been dipping back into an old favorite of mine, Pema Chodron's book, When Things Fall Apart. I know some of you are familiar with Pema Chodron's work, and this is, one of her most loved. It's really about those times of groundlessness, of impermanence, would be the Buddhist term for them. Nothing is permanent. Everything is always shifting and changing. We don't really like to think that is true, but it is. Even ourselves, nothing is permanent. There will always be times when we're feeling groundless, and then we get our footing again. It kind of comes and goes and in waves, and this is sort of part of the rhythm of life. So it's constant birth and death and change and shifting, and sometimes feels like things falling apart, but then coming back together again. That's sort of part of this experience of we're going through right now. I think there's this sense of groundlessness. So I thought, well, maybe a few ideas we could share about how do we deal with that kind of groundlessness at times like this. First thing that came to mind for me was kind of try to manage our own resistance to it, because I think we all feel that, and it comes out in different ways. Sometimes it comes out in a lot of anger or judgment, sometimes judgment and blame about how other people are handling it. If other people would handle it better, we'd feel better. A lot of trying to control and quickly, kind of get things fixed and back to where they should be. There's a kind of an inner resistance that we feel inside, I think, when things seem to be falling apart or when we're feeling kind of groundless. And that doesn't help us really through these times. Pema Chodron in When Things Fall Apart makes the very strong point that if we can kind of allow ourselves to just stay open to the experience, not get embattled or judgmental or blaming or angry, but kind of open to the experience, we might come out of it having learned some new things, deepened our capacity for feeling peace in the midst of confusing times. A little mowing. So managing our own resistance, that seems to be step one. And then the step two, of course, is ground ourselves. Ground ourselves in whatever ways work for us. And that works in a lot of different ways, but we have different practices, but we're all essentially grounding ourselves in God, in that power and presence, that deep spirit of life, of love, of peace that we're connected with at depth. That's something we can all do. God has been perceived in this way as that ground of being. Going back centuries, God was, one of the Hebrew names for God was the rock, El Sal'i. The Lord is my rock. I always loved that the Hebrews had so many different names for God to characterize or to capture the different ways God can be there for us. So God as the rock. Jesus, of course, taught that teaching as well, about how to weather the storms of life. He said, if you hear these words of mine and act on them, it'll be like a man who dug deep, laid his foundation for his house on a rock. I think the words he was talking about, what he meant was that the kingdom of God is within you. You can tap into that, and that can be a rock for you to weather the storms of life. How do we do that? I think we ground ourselves in prayer, in daily routines that are nurturing for us spiritually. Certainly through meditation practice, as we kind of train ourselves just a little bit, day by day, year by year, to just follow the breath and watch the thoughts come and go. We become less attached to them and more aware of that deep center of self in us that isn't a slave to our thoughts and emotions, but is a witness of them, and a steadier, strong presence in the midst of them. There's I read an article, I think it was in the Atlantic, about a woman, how she's practicing Ramadan. She's Muslim, and she's talking about how she's practicing Ramadan this year, with the social distancing. I think Ramadan goes on, another week. I think it goes till May 23rd. It's through the month. It's very holy time of spiritual disciplines and practice. And typically, there's fasting all through the day, and then an evening meal at sunset, shared by family and dear ones, a feast. And this woman was talking about they were using Zoom and things like that now to sit down to their meal and have others having their feast at sunset with other family members in their homes. And she mentioned that every night at midnight she gets on video, gets on Zoom with loved ones, and they read from the Quran. She mentioned one of her brothers always has a cat in the frame, and the cat's tail is flipping up and down contentedly as they read sections from the Quran with one another. She said it's very grounding, very grounding. I think we all have things in our lives that are very grounding for us. Spiritual practices, morning prayers, gratitude prayers before bed, times of sitting in the quiet, a sacred morning walk, or an afternoon cup of tea on the patio, certain things that are nourishing for us deeply that can be very grounding for us. And we really need grounded people right now. Wouldn't you agree? We need people who are centered and steady in the midst of confusion and uncertainty. And we need to move toward that more greatly too, I think. Most of us don't do that perfectly. I certainly don't. There's a call during this time for us to dig a little deeper to that foundation in us, so that we can be steady and strong in groundless times. I was thinking of a woman I met years and years ago, more than 20 anyway. Her name was Carol. I can't remember her last name, but she was intake kind of administrator at a local hospice program, and I was doing an article for Columbus Monthly at the time about local hospice programs. They were very new at the time, and I was eager to learn about them. My own mother was quite ill, and I wanted to learn more about them and what they offered. And I remember talking to this woman, Carol, who she was the point of contact for anybody that called in to see if, because they had a loved one who was dying, or they were themselves, and they were in a really, really groundless time, these people on the edge. And Carol was that first point of contact. And I asked her how she handled that every day, being that person that people were calling, from the edge of groundlessness out there. And she said, I just know that I have to be fully present to them, fully present. And I thought that takes a steadiness. She's laid her foundation on a rock somewhere. I don't know what her spiritual practices were, but she had them in her life to be able to maintain that steady center day after day, receiving these calls from people in distress. And I experienced that myself when I called her at one point about whether they would be able to handle my mother's care in hospice. She was very present, and that steadying influence was very calming. We need that, and we can extend that to others when we have come into a little bit of it ourselves. You just got buzzed by a hummingbird out there. I don't know whether you saw that. It was very fast. So I wanted to just share a practice with you. When we've done our own centering work, grounding work, and we've felt a little bit of that, and we have, or if we want to cultivate it more deeply because we're experiencing groundlessness in a troubling way, we're worried, or we're angry, or we're fearful, we can practice this with ourselves too, as well as with others. And if you want to learn more about this practice, Pema Chodron is a great one to read. The practice is called Tonglen, and it's literally translates as taking and sending. So when you, it could be when you're reading news, headlines, or things that are very troubling for you, or hearing about suffering of others in the world, you can draw that in on your in-breath, take that away, and then you can send out on your out-breath, send out peace, send out love, send out strength and wisdom and courage. And you can continue to do that, breathing in that distress, and it's just going away, sending out your peace, sending out groundedness, sending out steadiness and strength. It's called Tonglen. It's an ancient Buddhist practice, taking and sending. I've done it countless times. It's something we can do. This is what I like about it. In times of worry or distress, for ourselves, for others, we can do it for ourselves when we are feeling fearful. We can breathe in and visualize ourselves just drawing away that fear, that anxiety, and breathing out the peace and the centeredness. And in no time, you will begin to feel that more and more. As you practice it, whether it's for yourself or others, you cultivate more of it inside yourself. That core of steadiness in us grows as we share it with others. there will always be groundless times in human life. I don't think there's one of us who would say it's been a smooth, steady, beautiful ride, moment by moment, every month and every year. There are times when things are spinning and the floor has dropped out from beneath us. It could be a time of illness or loss, or war or cultural problems or anxiety, whatever they are. Human life has always had these times of groundlessness. There is a power in us that can keep us steady in the midst of it all, and we can cultivate that more and more. So let's just take a moment in prayer as we see that truth for ourselves, each one of us, and for living beings everywhere. There is this core of strength and steadiness within us, this deep place where we know our oneness with the creative force, with that power and presence we call God. We realize our oneness with it, and we are grounded in it. We are unshakable. We are steady. We are strong. Emotions can rise and fall. Worries can come and go, but we are connected to God deep in us. We are centered. We are steady. We are strong. We know this truth for each one in our community today, for living beings everywhere around the world, for our very planet home. We are one with the Creator, deeply grounded in that power and presence. And we will see our way through all the storms. All is well. So it is. Amen. Well, we're going to have a closing song here in a moment. Let me see. Joe will come over and let me see what I should do. A couple of announcements here, maybe. I usually do here. Of course, we'll keep getting together in this way as long as need be, and I don't know how much longer that will be. I haven't seen anything in the papers or in announcements about church gatherings, so I don't think that's being recommended yet, although there is some opening up going on, so perhaps not too long. And when we do go back, it'll probably be a little bit both and. We'll go back, but hopefully continue to do Facebook Live from the church, too. Joe and Paul met up there a week or two ago and did some Wi-Fi testing. We've kind of gained a little bit more. Paul got us a little more data speed.
Whatever.
Some more gigs. He got us some gigs.
He got us a gig,
got us some gig of it. And we think we'll be able to do that okay. So it'll be a little bit both and for a while probably, and we'll just be feeling our way with it. As always, we welcome your support. I'm so grateful. So many of you have been sending in tithes and donations, even in this time of social distancing. What a blessing that is. We're so grateful for that continuing support because, of course, we're still paying rent and things like that at the building and all the usual expenses. So thank you for your generous support out there. Thank you for tuning in on Sunday mornings. It feels like a community connection. We know you're there, and we see the comments as they come in and see them afterwards, and it's like, oh, wonderful. We all were able to at least connect a little bit. Send in your prayer requests. UnityDelawareOhio.org is the place to go. There's a prayer request tab at the top. There's also a donate button there. And Joe always puts a PayPal link also for donations in the comments section. And a thank you to Joe for his artistry, his musical ability, his technical ability. little loop outside here, but he made it work here on the patio. And we'll thank the birds and the hummer that buzzed you a little while ago. I don't know whether you saw that. It was so fast.
It's going after my shirt.
I think so. They're drawn to color, and they've buzzed Joe's Hawaiian shirts more than once. So, all right, we're going to do our closer song here. It's a wonderful song we just learned recently. It's been circulating a little on Facebook. I think it was a post from Linda Blaine where I heard this. Thank you, Linda, for posting that. It's a Janice Ian song, and I think pretty recent, but we saw Cheryl Wheeler do it.
Right.
Wonderful singer and guitarist, and I think it's about the flow of things. It's called, up and down, and better times are always going to come back, and this song is called Better Times Will Come. Join us when you catch on to the chorus. Better times
will come, better times. better times will come when this world learns to live as one. Oh, better times will come when we greet each dawn without fear, knowing loved ones soon will be near. When the winds of war cannot blow anymore, oh, better times will come. Better times will come, better times will come when this world learns to live as one. Oh, better times will come. Though we live each day as our last, we know someday soon it will pass. We will dance, we will sing in this never-ending spring. Oh, better times will come. Better times will come. Better times will come when this world learns to live as one. Oh, better times will come. Better times will come. Better times will come when this world learns to live as one. Oh, better times will come. Oh, better times. Oh, better times. Oh, better times will come. Better times.
Better times. Beautiful song. Janice Ian's song. Joe will post those
I'll put the
titles and
names.
songwriters in the comments section when we finish here, just in a minute too. So you can look those songs up yourself and maybe purchase something on iTunes or something like that if you want to. As always, thank you for joining us. We're a community. We're a community of prayer, and it's a joy to connect with one another on Sunday mornings. So stay connected. Sending blessings your way. Bye.